Matchmaker, matchmaker, make me a match. Find me a find, catch me a catch. Maybe.
I'm a dancer, and I'm a traveler. And wherever I go, I experience the world one dance at a time. I'm Mickela Mallozzi, and this is Bare Feet in NYC. Bare Feet is supported in part by
Bloomberg Connects gives you a way to experience the arts from your mobile phone. You can explore hundreds of cultural organizations from around the world, anytime, anywhere. Learn more at bloombergconnects.org or wherever you find your apps.
New York City is home to the largest Jewish community in the world outside Israel. Over 1.5 million Jews live in the New York metro area. Starting as early as 1654, this city has been a refuge for persecuted Jews from around the world, reaching its peak influx of immigrants in the late 1800s through the end of World War II. More than 2 million Eastern European and Russian Jews immigrated to the United States during that period. On this Bare Feet in NYC adventure, I discover the history of our Jewish New York neighbors and what this has meant for the city. My first stop is in historic Red Hook in Brooklyn, at the corner of Hamilton Avenue and Columbia Street.
Welcome to Red Hook. Every Thursday night here in Jalopy, Aaron Alexander hosts the New York Klezmer series, which is an evening of music workshops, dance workshops, performances, and jam sessions.
Klezmer is a musical genre that originated with the Ashkenazi Jews of Eastern Europe. The professional musicians playing this music are called Klezmorim, and as more Yiddish-speaking immigrants arrived in America in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Klezmer evolved, drawing influences from other musical genres, including jazz.
The idea was to have a regular place for Klezmorim in New York to come and have kind of a workshop, an intimate and informal space where they could try things out and be comfortable. So anyone can come. It's totally open. We have a workshop for an hour and a half before the show, and then we have a concert, and then afterwards a jam session. And oftentimes people will play at the jam session what they learned at the workshop.
Yeah.
Froelich translates to happy music in Yiddish, and it was usually played during weddings and celebrations. Group dances and circle dances accompany the Froelich style.
Our basic 101 step, forward, 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 forward. And you can do the same thing. You can double step it. Let your shoulders follow. Then you can also turn backwards and dance backwards. The fun of it is that you are aware of everybody else, but you're really also doing your own thing.
Traditional klezmer was highly influenced by Romanian folk music, which you can still hear in most of klezmer's repertoire, including the horas and the Bulgar rhythms. Typical instruments used in traditional klezmer music include the lead violin, piano, and accordion, and over the years have also included clarinet, trumpet, and other brass and woodwind instruments.
I'm going to teach you the Bulgar rhythm on the drums.
The Bulgar rhythm.
Yes.
And that's a traditional klezmer.
It's a traditional klezmer dance rhythm. Bum, 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 bum. Long, short, long, short, long. Long, short, long, short, long. Bum, ba. Yeah. Bravo. Wow, you're good.
Very good, thank you.
I've kind of backed into a more traditional view in a way. Like I've gone from being an avant-garde person who plays avant klezmer and avant jazz to kind of deepening my connection with the traditions. I started to feel connected to the community again, and it gave me a way to sort of be Jewish, which is a big part of my identity, without always being religious. It was a different way to be Jewish.
The Chosidel is named after the Hasidic Jews who danced this style, originally danced by the men as a form of religious meditation. Chosidel can be done in either a circle or a line, and the dance can sometimes last for 2 to 3 hours. After hearing the music and learning some of the dances that Jewish immigrants brought over to America, I head to the Lower East Side of Manhattan to follow the footsteps of these immigrants and dive into their history by visiting some of the establishments that are still open today. I meet with Adam Steinberg, a local guide who is giving me a tour of this historical New York neighborhood.
If you were arriving here in, say, 1900, fresh off the boat from, I don't know, the Russian Empire, you went through Ellis Island, and then you took a ferry, if you passed Ellis Island, onto Manhattan. This neighborhood was pretty much the closest residential neighborhood to where the boats let you off.
Oh, wow.
And it had, at the time, some reasonably cheap and very centrally located apartments. So here you could find your first home in America. It would be in a neighborhood with other Jews. You would find other people who spoke your language. You would find the synagogues and the mikveh. You'd find the kosher restaurants and the other foods you're familiar with. And you would hopefully find a job, probably in the garment industry. And often the factories were in this neighborhood as well. So it kind of made sense to start right here. But where you also have people who are trying to preserve some of the things they did in the old country. And that's really woven into the culinary history of this neighborhood.
We're gonna go to our first stop is a place that's over 100 years it's been here, Russ and Daughters, right?
Oh, yes. But one of my favorite things is it didn't begin as a traditional brick and mortar store. It began as a push cart, where Joel Russ himself just pushed a cart around the neighborhood selling pickled herring or whatever it was he could sell to make ends meet.
Well, let's go try that food.
Russ and Daughters is located on the corner of East Houston Street and Allen Street, and it is still owned by the original family over 100 years later.
A lot of the stuff here is smoked or pickled. 100 years ago, when Russ and Daughters was taking off, most of the families in this neighborhood didn't have ice boxes.
Right.
I mean, when you bought food, it wasn't going to last. So this was a great way to get protein in a way that would last.
Cured salmon, just salt. Whoa.
Yeah.
Once you pound it, I think you feel that.
Very intense. Very intense.
People would say these foods were too strong. They would make immigrants drink alcohol and become too excitable and, you know,
And dance and make music.
Exactly. This is food that conveys feeling.
Yep.
And that is what I love about this food.
This is a little pickled onion with a piece of pickled herring and cream sauce. And it's funny with this.
This one I feel like deserves a l'chaim.
It does. L'chaim. Oh, wow. The store is really kind of incredible. Just you have desserts here, you have cheese, you have pickled fish, you have bagels and schmears.
Schmears.
Yes, what you put on top of the bagels. It's just so beautiful, and it's so New York.
Yes.
Herman. Thank you. Thank you.
Our next stop is only a few blocks away to East Houston and Ludlow Street, home to one of the most famous delis in New York City, Katz's Delicatessen.
Holy cats, that's all I have to say.
The most important thing to know is that you must keep your ticket.
Okay.
Don't lose your ticket.
Katz's is best known for its pastrami sandwich, and it is still a family-run business for over 100 years. During World War II, the owner's 3 sons were fighting in the army, and the family's tradition of sending food to their sons became the company's slogan, "Send a salami to your boy in the army."
One of the things to know is that most immigrants throughout U.S. history have been coming from a place where beef might be something you can get once a week, maybe once a month, if you were lucky. For the Jewish mothers moving to this neighborhood 100 years ago, being able to serve beef to their children, that was why they came here.
Holy moly. Yeah, that's like the size of my face.
There's something different about having a pastrami here, where it's made by hand and where it takes hours, and you know that there just aren't many places where you can get this. The fact that you have to get it here makes it even more special. It means you're part of a history of this place, this neighborhood, for 100 years or more. And I think that's what a lot of these restaurants and eateries, what makes them so special. There is no delicate way of eating this, and that's the point.
L'chaim.
L'chaim again.
How do you even, I don't know if I can.
Our last stop with Adam is to the corner of Essex Street and Grand Street, home to the Pickle Guys, a modern, fresh take on an old Lower East Side tradition. Pickling became very popular with Ashkenazi Jews from Eastern Europe, who brought their tradition with them when they arrived here in New York. Aside from the classic pickled cucumbers, the Pickle Guys offer an array of exotic pickled items, such as pickled mango and pickled pineapple.
100 years ago, there were about 200 pickle vendors on the Lower East Side. They were everywhere. There were people selling pickles out of barrels or at stores. This is the last one. There were these huge cucumber farms on Long Island, and the city, I mean, that was a really cheap source of vegetable because they were so close by and there were so many of them. Then you just put them in a barrel with vinegar and then add maybe some garlic, some dill, and then you get your kosher dill pickles.
I would love to try a very traditional pickled cucumber, and then I really want to try this mango. That's good. Not too sour. It's really nice. This is the mango. Thank you. Oh, that's good.
Isn't it? And wait for it. It then has a little bit of a kick. Not too spicy.
Yeah,
just kind of like a warmth. It's really nice.
Yeah.
I know. One of my favorite things is the horseradish. So the week before Passover, if you come here, you'll see a guy standing out in the curb in front of the pickle guys wearing a gas mask with a crank, and he's making raw horseradish, fresh, made right here for your Passover Seder.
Right.
In Ashkenazi tradition, horseradish is a bitter food eaten at the Seder to symbolize the harshness of the slavery that the people of Israel endured in Egypt during biblical times.
Throughout the places we're visiting, it's something really specifically New York American Jewish, something newly created here, and the foods themselves help create the identity of a shared Jewish identity for what was a very diverse community.
After saying goodbye to Adam, I head a few blocks south right below Canal Street on the border of Chinatown. I visit the museum at Eldridge Street, a National Historic Landmark and the first synagogue in the United States built from the ground up by Eastern European Jews. I meet with Amy Stein-Milford, Deputy Director of the museum, to give me a personal tour of this beautiful and sacred space.
So this is the reader's platform, and in the Jewish prayer service, there is a central part of the service where you read from the Torah. It's in the middle of the congregation so that everyone who is a member of the congregation can hear what's going on and be a part of that prayer service. This ark is unusually large, and it could hold 24 scrolls, and in fact, it did back in the day. Wow. But typically, a congregation doesn't have anywhere near that much. You have usually about 3 scrolls. So that just shows you the size and the vitality of this congregation. Yeah. And because there are no Torahs in there today, we can show it to people. If there were scrolls inside,
It had to be covered.
It would be covered, right. And we wouldn't be opening it up.
We are sitting in the seats that only men sat in, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, tell us, I see there's numbers.
Yeah, you're right to point out the numbers. Because this was and continues to be an Orthodox synagogue, you have men sitting in one section and then women sitting upstairs. You could rent, you could purchase a seat. There was a whole system for the sale and rental of seats. And certainly if you were an immigrant who was just struggling to get by, and there were many who are members here, you could worship here, you just wouldn't be a paying member of the congregation. You can see etched into its front doors, mounted from the rooftop, the Star of David. And for many who were coming from places where they couldn't worship freely and openly, it was an amazing symbol to be able to place on the front door, on the roof, in the windows. Right. You'll see that symbol everywhere. The building is 1887. That window was introduced in 2010. So this window features stars throughout. They look heavenly. You're supposed to feel like you're looking up, to the heavens when you're in the synagogue. The heart of the window is the six-pointed Star of David, and this really unifies those two traditions, both the American tradition and the Jewish tradition.
The history of the Eastern European Jews who immigrated to the United States is woven into the fabric of New York City's Lower East Side. But the story leading up to their journey here is the premise of one of Broadway's most popular shows, Fiddler on the Roof. I head to Lincoln Center to meet with Bartlett Sher, award-winning director of the Broadway production, to talk about his process in staging the new revival of the show.
I was raised Catholic. My father was Jewish. Even growing up, my father didn't want anyone to know he was Jewish. It was a kind of generation which was in a certain amount of, he was concerned about being Jewish in business and all kinds of things he was doing. But so I kind of am the rediscoverer of that part of my family's life. I think people who are Jewish have a deep relationship to the story. They would have seen it many, many times. So part of my reason for doing it was personal. I was kind of thinking, well, this is my chance to have a conversation with my father and my grandparents. And then the two main things were that Danny Burstein could play Tevye and that Hofesh Schechter could recreate new dances instead of Jerome Robbins. We do the bottle dance in there as well, which is probably our big homage to Robbins. It's an invention of Robbins into Hofesh's own kind of version of it on steroids. So we kind of push it a little further and add a little bit more music, but it's super fun. It relies on the dancer to improv a little bit. It has a kind of openness to it where it has to feel as naturalistic as possible. So they have a lot of freedom in it to just lengthen the moves or share the ideas or be connected with each other. It's not as formal as pure dance. So there's a kind of, like it could have felt like it grew out of their bodies.
Right.
After meeting with Bart, I head to the Broadway Theater on 53rd Street, home to his new staged production, to meet with Marla Phelan, dance captain of the show. Marla is giving me a crash course in the acclaimed choreography by Hofesh Schechter.
Whoa, backstage on a Broadway show.
Hofesh Schechter is an Israeli-born choreographer, and he's based in London with his dance company. And I think what's so amazing about his work is that you have to be still very virtuosic and a trained dancer, but it still feels very lively and natural and looks like anybody could do it, or that you would actually see that at a wedding or at a bar, and so it feels very authentic. My favorite part of the show is definitely L'Chaim. It's the rowdiest, fun. We're all drinking and having a good time, and sort of feels like anything goes, and you can just have a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So which dance am I gonna learn?
I'm gonna teach you L'Chaim.
Yes!
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna
Ready?
do this. Yes.
Cool. In the tavern, we're all drinking. Tevye has agreed to marry his oldest daughter off to Lazer Wolf, the butcher.
Okay.
And so we're busting out into
Celebratory.
celebration.
Awesome.
Okay?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And
Okay.
shoulders.
Yeah, like it's like your whole body jangles and you're gonna travel forward a bit.
Oh, cool. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And this is like really low, heavy pelvis, kind of like heavy monster walks.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Cool.
And then this is like you've had a bit too much to drink.
5, 6, 7, 8.
I play a boy in the show, and it seems pretty fitting to the movement because it is so masculine. And the dancing, you know, it just kind of like births out of the story, so it feels very integrated. It's not suddenly there's a dance number and everyone just gets into their line and starts dancing, which kind of feels like a very typical Broadway show. There's a wedding, and so everyone is dancing at the wedding. And then there's interjections of little amazing choreography. Or we're at a tavern, and everyone's drinking, and so then everyone just bursts in.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Woo! Very nice, guys. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Great work.
My last stop is to the Upper East Side on 92nd Street and Lexington Avenue. home to the 92nd Street Y. The 92Y has been hosting the weekly Israeli folk dance program for more than 40 years. I meet with co-directors of the Israeli Dance Division, Ruth Goodman and Danny Uziel, both enthusiastic dancers and promoters of their Israeli folk traditions. Together they share folk songs, music, and dances that were revived in New York back in the 1970s, while also helping evolve the dance styles with more modern choreography and music.
Because you have to mental, because you have to remember the steps to each dance, the physical and the social. So you have three elements that you can stay there and dance for the next 24 hours.
Right.
And sometimes we go to weekends out of New York, and we spend 3 days dance, eat, forget about sleep.
2, 3, twisting left. Aha, cha-cha, cha-cha. Take it out, take it out, take it out. Again, right? 2, turn right and twisting to your right. I was avid ballet dancer, and someone brought me to dancing as a young teenager to 92nd Street Y folk dancing. And I was like, wow, this is so much fun. You know, if my turnout's not perfect or whatever, I can still jump and have a great time. Yeah. And then I was just exposed to this whole culture, and it was so exciting. 4 in place. A 1. Back. Aha. Whoop. Israeli folk dance can trace its roots to talking about dance from biblical times. However, since it would have been considered graven images to have any visual depiction of those dances, they're interpretations. And that's why when the State of Israel was created, the idea of having dances that could reflect this broad-based culture, everybody brings the community together in a flavor that's, you know, through your feet, right to your heart.
Yeah. After the beginner lesson is a more advanced lesson, used as more of a brush-up for more dance choreography at a much faster pace. As the evening goes on, more and more people join in. The Israeli Folk Dance Night at the 92Y becomes a huge dance party with over 100 dancers sharing choreography and new dance steps together.
The person who founded the Israeli Folk Dance Department here and the Israeli Dance Institute that we direct was Fred Burke, who passed away in 1980. Fred had brought Donnie in when I was still a little tyke to do some programs with him, and then later when Fred retired, he brought me and Donnie and one other partner that we work with to continue the tradition here. I always loved dance, so the arts were our passion, and I loved the idea of bringing people together.
Each of us grew up dancing as kids, but not together, in different places.
Israeli dancing.
Israeli dancing, yeah. Israeli folk dancing. But we landed back in New York City in the early 90s, and we both ended up at the same session at the same time.
The same night, actually. Fran came at the beginning of the session. I came at the very end of the session. Most of the sessions are so much fun that they go quite late.
Right, right.
This one time, they ended fairly early, so I only had 15 minutes to dance, and that's when we met.
Ruth is an amazing teacher. She's so clear, and the dances over the years have gotten more and more exciting and complicated sometimes, but she makes it seem easy when she teaches.
And it's a whole community of people holding hands and dancing together and following each other and watching each other, and we come every week, and it's really become an amazing community.
Ruth and Danny lead the partner dances, sometimes by example, but at least one of them is on the mic dictating the steps. It is very similar to America Contra dances, where a caller leads the choreography for the dancers. I was lucky enough to have Danny as my dance partner.
We are dancing today almost all over the world. You name a country, there's Israeli dancing there. So you'll see a mix of culture, a mix of steps. I've been dancing for 67 years. I'm 82 years old.
What? You are not 82.
82.
Get out of here.
When I dance, I will look 75.
You
Maybe
look
I
right
look
now
35.
Right, you look incredible. Dance keeps you young. It really does.
That's what dancing does.
Israeli folk dance expresses, like all folk cultures, the flavor, the background, everything of a people. The unique part about Israeli folk dance is since it's in and of itself a culture of immigrants, much like New York, you have all of those wonderful flavors mixed into the tapestry of Israeli folk dance.
The Jewish people have been a part of New York City's history for generations. Their hardships, stories, music, dances, food, and language have helped shape the landscape of New York culture as well as American traditions. My time dancing the authentic steps from the old country to having a sensory overload with the unique tastes and smells of the Lower East Side helped me understand the long history of the Eastern European immigrants of the 19th century to Jewish traditions of modern-day Israel and everything in between.
And I'll see you on my next Bear Feet at NYC this year, wherever it may take me.
You can stay connected with us on travelbarefeet.com, where you'll find extra bonus videos, join our Bare Feet series conversations through social media, and stay updated with our newsletter.
Everything okay? That's your happy day?
Bare Feet at NYC! Ow!
I thought it was me, baby. I was like, yeah, I got a shape up and all that.